Hello, Adam here, back out in the shop. We are gearing up for the next big project. So Barry's out doing Barry stuff, and while he's doing that, I'm going to be taking care of the major components for the next iteration of the Vanagon. So what we are doing is we are pretty much getting rid of all of the German engineering in the Vanagon. We're going to replace the engine, the transmission, and the entire wiring harness from headlights to taillights with a Subaru Impreza. This means that it'll simplify repair work done to it, since so Vanagons are hard enough to find parts for, let alone the old engines that haven't been in production for 40 years now. Especially his air-cooled one. They made the last air-cooleds in 82, 83, I think. So, that's 40 years that's been out of production. So finding parts for the air-cooled engine is hard. He's had nothing but problems with his 4-speed manual transmission, and finding parts for that are non-existent. There's some 3D printed stuff, but it's, for the most part, you have to just make stuff on the fly, which is what I've been doing to keep it on the road as long as it has been. But we're going to get rid of all of that. So we are going to replace his current EJ22. So he's got an OBD1, so it's a 92 EJ22. Thanks, airplane. That's what happens when you live right under the approach run for an airport. So he's got a Subaru engine now, but it's an OBD1 from a early 90s, 92, 94 legacy. So the only diagnostics that you can do on it are flash codes, and that's on a good day. And that's if the original converter, the people that originally put that engine in, had done it correctly. I've fixed a lot of the wiring. I've got it to actually run decently, but it's still got a number of problems. It still chuggles and stalls on occasion, and we can't figure it out. It's something in the computer or in the wiring, but we can't, the diagnostic circuit just isn't there anymore to get it figured out. So we're replacing that with an OBD2 engine. So it's still phase 1, but it's from a 97, which means that you can plug any scan tool into it and get codes out of it. Plus we are using the entire wiring harness from the Impreza, so all of the integrated circuitry that it goes to, like the dash, are all going to be there. So you'll have the Subaru readouts on the dash. You'll get a check engine light. You can plug a scanner into it and get a code. And you can buy parts for it, is the big thing. You can roll into any parts store and buy parts for the EJ22. This is an EJ22. More specifically, an EJ22E. Also known as a phase 1 engine. Phase 1 engines can be identified by the fact that they have external spark plugs and head bolts. External meaning they're not inside the valve cover, like on the phase 2 engines. This one is bolted to a 5MT, more specifically a TY752. In this configuration, it doesn't really work too well for a Vanagon, because it was designed to go in the front of a Subaru. If you put it in the back of a Volkswagen and put it in first gear, well, your output's going to spin this way, which means your Vanagon's going to go backwards. And you'll have 5 reverse gears and only 1 forward gear. Not very conducive for, like interstate travel or anything. So we're going to crack this transmission open and we're gonna do a diff flip. So the differential flip as it is in these two boxes right here. So let me show you what we're working with. So this is from a company known as Subarugears, or Subarugears, I believe is the actual. Gotta make sure we don't dox anyone. So in our boxes, we got all kinds of fun goodies to play with here. So there we go, and show you there, Subarugears. So this is a replacement for the tail end of the transmission. So the Volkswagen Vanagon that it's going into is a two-wheel drive, so therefore we don't need the entire transfer assembly and the rear output on the transmission. So this will be replacing that. And then this is really the bread and butter of this whole kit. So this is a reverse cut pinion. Really nicely done stuff too. Very clean machine work. It's a quality product you're paying for. And this is a locking collar, so we'll get into it as we tear the transmission apart, more about the inner workings and whatnot. But so in a Subaru transmission, an all-wheel drive transmission, the pinion actually runs through the main shaft out to the back, where the transfer assembly and your center differential sends power back through to the front, where it feeds the front differential. This is a locking collar that'll lock the main shaft to the pinion gear. And then, of course, you can't have a ring and pinion without a ring gear. I've heard some parts of the world they call it a crown gear also. So, but there's the ring gear. I'm pretty sure Barry went with a 411 gear set on this one, maybe 390. Yeah, actually, I think he went with 390. So the options are, oh no, it says 411 right there. So the options are you can get a 370, a 390, or a 411. And that is your final drive ratio. That'll determine two things: your rate of acceleration, so how fast you accelerate. Shut up, Windows. It'll also determine your top speed. So a higher gear has a lower number. So 490 is a higher gear than, or a 390 is a higher gear than a 411. So 411 will accelerate faster, but it'll top out sooner than a 390. And these are the CV adapters. So these go onto the stub shafts of the transmission and allow you to bolt your Volkswagen axles to the transmission. And we've got some marking compound. This will be used to set the pinion depth and the gear mesh. This is a sight gauge. Since your dipstick isn't as accessible on the transmission, they give you a sight gauge that you can look at the side of the transmission and make sure it's full. And let's see, we've got a new, look at that, genuine Subaru parts. That's actually really freaking awesome. So you've got a new roll pin for your shifter, your shift shaft, a breather vent. So as luck would have it, the freaking battery died on my camera. So yeah, lastly in the kit you get a number of tools. So this is for setting your backlash, as it says, backlash tool. And this is for removing the side plates on the differential. I like that cutout on the, it's probably a laser cut, I would imagine. I don't think a plasma could get that precise. And then this is a pinion depthing tool. This is used for setting the pinion depth. Of course, we'll get into all how to use all these as we do the build. And lastly, we've got a shifter, a shift knob, at least. It's nice. Looks like a decent sand cast. Aluminum. So yeah, that's the kit overall. Now, let's get down to business. So before we start any actual work, I have a general rule of I don't work on dirty equipment. So we're going to give it a thorough degreasing and pressure washing and make sure it's all spick and span and ready to go. Okay, so yeah, let's not trip over everything. Moving this thing it's kind of heavy, but yeah, so it's all cleaned up. Well, it's better. I might get another can of engine cleaner and spray it down, let it sit a little longer. And I need to focus on the underside a little better. But my real focus was on the transaxle itself. So this is the differential section, and then this is the transmission. Really, it's only like from there to there is the transmission. It's not very big. Okay, fifth gear is back here. It's in this section. But the rest of this, say the tail shaft, this is just your output to your rear differential. And then your transfer assembly is in here. So you've got your center differential. Pretty sure sits right here, if I remember right. And then, so your power comes from your engine, through your input, through your gear set, to your center differential, and then it goes down through your main shaft, up your pinion gear, to your ring gear, spins your front wheels, and then it goes out the tail shaft to your rear differential, and you have all-wheel drive. But the Vanagon isn't all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive. It's just a two-wheel drive Vanagon. So our focus is this section right here. So hopefully you'll hang around and follow us as we work through all of these. They're fairly significant projects, but we're going to break them up into individual videos. So like the tear down of the transmission, and then the rebuilding part, and then the tear down of the engine, the rebuilding it part, and then the wiring harness and all of that stuff. And then, of course, I did also build that whole setup there. That is actually an engine test stand. So once we have everything rebuilt and assembled, we can do a test fire and make sure everything is running and working cohesively and properly. And we can run it all right there on the test stand before it goes into the Vanagon. And then once everything's ready to go, essentially we're going to roll the Vanagon into the shop. Well, not into the shop. because it doesn't fit in my garage. It's too tall for the garage door. But we'll roll it to the shop, and we'll do like a one day where we strip the whole thing, take the engine, the transmission, and the wiring harness out of the Vanagon, and then we will do all the prep work, get the cross members and everything ready, and then we'll put the engine and transmission in the next day, and then like the third day we can do all the wiring and get all that situated. I still got a few things that I got to figure out, a little more engineering work, but it should be fun. So stick around, and till next time, stay safe, have fun.